Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Maddie from TTG, and welcome to our Learning Latin America Facebook Live with the Latin American Travel Association. Today, I am joined by Colin Stewart, the Chairman of LATA, Jess Dennison from Latin Roots, Ben Line from Journey Latin America, then we have Maggie Smith from Windows in the Wild and Malcolm McFarlane from Aqua Expeditions. So welcome all. So this Facebook Live is an opportunity for agents to brush up on their Latin American knowledge during the UK lockdown that we are currently in. Today we're going to be talking about the new LATA training courses that are available to you and a competition that has launched actually today in conjunction with that. We're going to talk about the top reasons to sell Latin America, how to switch sell to Latin America, and each of our speakers today are going to be giving you one top tip each for selling Latin America. We will also give you a brief overview of the resources available to find out more about Latin America, should you like to do so. If you have any questions during the session, feel free to type them in the comment section and we'll do our best to answer them as we go. So my first question really, I'm going to come to you, Colin, is defining Latin America, which regions and countries are included.
Hi, Maddie. Hi, everybody. I guess Latin America, the definition that we would use is basically from kind of Mexico right down to the Antarctic and everything that falls in between there. So quite a diverse region there, but that might just give a quick overview of what we're talking about here.
Okay, great. And the LATA Training Academy is a great resource for agents. But some agents might not be as familiar with it or at all. Colin, will you give them a brief overview of what it encompasses?
Sure, I'd love to. So the LATA Training Academy was launched at the beginning of this year. It was created, I guess the idea behind it was to create this central hub of information that we could use to help promote and inform people around Latin America and what's on offer. We carried out some research at the end of last year where some of the findings were quite startling. One of the questions was around people's knowledge and awareness of Latin America, and 60% either had little knowledge or no knowledge of the region. And so that was part of the driving force behind we need to do something. Now, the Academy for us is a great starting point. It's a beginner's guide to everything that is Latin America. Initially, what we're trying to create here is the kind of first stop shop of understanding the basics about Latin America. And so it's a really great opportunity for agents and anybody interested in selling or traveling to Latin America to find out more about each of the countries and what's on offer, but at a very top level. And over the coming weeks and months, we'll be developing that and creating more content and giving more detail about Latin America. So we're excited to be doing that.
Cool. And I know we launched a competition with you today that is now going to be running for the next 5 weeks. Do you want to kind of explain to agents how they can get involved and what they can win?
Yeah, absolutely. So over the next 5 weeks, starting today, as you pointed out, we'll be offering or the lucky winner who completes the course. So one course per week, 5 courses over the next 5 weeks. If you complete the training course, you'll be entered in to win some wine from Latin America. We're also going to be doing spot challenges on the day, offering specific things like coffee, etc., to those people who are completing the course as well. So the course shouldn't take you more than 20 minutes, 25 minutes. It's a great way to kind of find out more about each of these fantastic destinations in Latin America. And if you get a bottle of wine or some coffee or other treat as a result of that, then even better.
Great. So for those of you who don't know, you can find more information and those links on our website on ttgmedia.com/competitions. So now moving on to reasons to sell Latin America. I'm sure you've all had different experiences of Latin America. So I want to ask what you love most about traveling there, and in your opinion, what is the biggest reason to sell it? So Jess, I'm going to come to you first.
Great, thanks. Hi, everyone. I mean, that's a really tricky question because there's probably about 100 reasons why I love Latin America. So it's really difficult to pick out a couple. But a couple of things that I love about Latin America. One, it's gastronomy. And certainly after 5 weeks, nearly 6 weeks in lockdown, I've definitely confirmed that gastronomy is definitely something I enjoy. So the food and drink in Latin America is absolutely amazing. You know, you've got such a diverse continent, offering everything from the Andean region to the Atlantic to the Pacific to the Caribbean. And so all these combinations give such an amazing gastronomy for those clients that love that element to a trip. So that's one thing I really enjoy. Everything I love my meat, so I love the red meat that you get particularly in places like Argentina and Uruguay and Brazil as well. And I love the Colombian food. It's got a kind of Caribbean element to it, so lots of fresh seafood and really fresh food and veg. So yeah, so gastronomy is one thing that I love about Latin America, and the other thing that I would pick is the beaches. So most of you probably wouldn't associate Latin America specifically with a beach destination for a week, let's say, but if you learn a little bit more, you'll know that there's some absolute gems in Latin America for beach destinations. Not every country, but countries like Brazil, who have just got kind of 8,000 kilometers worth of coastline, to Uruguay, which most people don't even know there are beaches there, up to Colombia with its Caribbean coast. So lots of beautiful beach destinations, really small, really kind of boutique destinations that your clients will really love. So yeah, just a couple of ideas for you there.
Great. And Ben, what about you? What in your opinion, what's the biggest reason to sell Latin America?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd sort of follow on from Jess and say it's pretty tricky to break it down to a single thing or even two things, because you know, diversity is sort of spread across every facet of the continent, really. But you know, what first drew me there were the ancient sites. I think you know, since being a kid, I always just imagined you know, visiting some of these huge, great big Mayan pyramids and Machu Picchu, of course, and I think that's probably what drew me first, and what I think is, you know, one of the big draws for many people, certainly many of our clients. You can go to the most well-known sites like Machu Picchu, which is absolutely incredible, mind-blowing, and you know, perhaps Chichen Itza up in Mexico. But there are lots of sort of off the beaten track ancient sites as well, both in the Inca world, pre-Inca world. You know, the Mayan and Aztec civilizations. You're spoiled for choice, really. So, and being able to visit sites and combining them with the living cultures, I think, is really amazing. And Latin America's undoubtedly got some of the most sort of fascinating, you know, living cultures that are still steeped in history and tradition. So, you know, you're spoiled for choice, I think.
Yeah.
So,
cool. And Maggie, I'm going to come to you next.
Well, I think it's great for, so many of the countries are great for active holidays and particularly trekking. As you said, Ben, Machu Picchu, but in Colombia, they have the lost city of the Tironas, which is abandoned and not many people go there. It's a fantastic place to go and trek, and other areas as well, as in Ecuador, etc.
Great. And Malcolm, what about you? Well, what do you think? What do you love most about traveling Latin America?
You know, like many people, when I first visited Latin America, it was backpacking, and that's got its real charm to it. But actually, my entire professional life working with Latin America has been at the top end, at the luxury level, and you know, it has such. You know, again, everyone keeps on saying diversity. There's so many different choices, so many different options, and actually, some of the options have been there since travelers started going to Latin America. You know, you look at places in hotels in Rio that are historic hotels, and they're gorgeous. You know, they're like Raffles in Singapore versions. You know, but actually, many of the newer hotels at the luxury level are really bringing something new to the entire luxury travel industry. You know, they're incorporating culture and art, and both historic and modern art in a very different way that we've seen elsewhere. And they're really, leading the world with that, and their gastronomy, as Jess mentioned. Actually, there's so many different elements that they incorporate into their boutique, beautiful hotels. So yeah, so much choice.
Yeah, I mean, clearly there are so many different types of holidays to be had in Latin America. And clients might not necessarily be aware of the diversity of options that are available. So I'm going to ask about switch selling now. What destinations should agents recommend for clients who love, say, safaris? I think, Jess, you're going to answer this one.
Yeah, sure. So we know that Latin America generally is one of the latter destinations that people travel to after they've traveled to Australasia, to Canada, to Africa, for example. So they're always looking for something new and somewhere new and exciting to go to. And Latin America has everything. So what you've got to think about is your Mr. and Mrs. Smith, who went on safari, let's say, as you asked, Maddie, and enjoyed South Africa or Kenya or Botswana, wherever it was, loved that holiday, and want something new, want something exciting and different. And what you can offer them in Latin America that has a similar experience, albeit different wildlife, would be something like Brazil. Brazil has the Pantanal, which again, many of you may have not heard of. I really recommend that you read up on it, because it's one of the best places in Latin America and in the world for wildlife spotting, both birds and wildlife as well. A little bit like safari, so you stay in a lodge and you go out on 4x4s and on foot to kind of look out for the wildlife, seek out the wildlife with these amazing guides. It's the most remote wetlands, huge areas, so totally remote, and an amazing experience, which I absolutely loved when I did it, and can highly recommend. So that's one. And then the other option, which I know a lot more people are familiar with, is Costa Rica, which is incredible for your wildlife. It's very much rainforest based, so there's a lot of experiences that you can do, tying into what Maggie said with active holidays, but also incorporating wildlife, everything from your turtles on the east up to your bird life that you'd expect from Costa Rica, and your sea life, your marine life as well. So plenty of options, lots of other destinations as well, but I'd say those are probably the two top that I'd recommend for Mr. and Mrs. Smith who loved Africa.
Cool, thanks, Jess. So Maggie, I'm going to come to you next, and I'm going to ask which destinations should agents recommend for clients who love trekking and hiking, maybe in mountain ranges?
So people that have actually been trekking in the Himalayas or gone up to Kilimanjaro, obviously there's lots and lots of scope in Latin America. Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, just to name but a few, all have fantastic treks.
Okay.
Enormous hikes above sea level.
Yeah, great. And Malcolm, what about for customers who love cruise? Which Latin American destinations should agents be recommending to them?
Well, so for Aqua Expeditions, we operate a small boutique, beautiful cruise on the Amazon in Peru. So we find that actually, but we also have a vessel on the Mekong in Southeast Asia, and we have a vessel in Indonesia. And when we launched our first vessel on the Amazon, so that was our, we built the business there, we knew what we were doing. When we launched on the Mekong, we were really interested to see actually how big a sort of return clientele we had, and actually we look now and we find that 40% of our business has been on the Amazon, has been on the Mekong, and they feed into each other. And we wondered if maybe actually the difference in the cultural side of things that is so prevalent on the Mekong would actually differ on the Amazon. But actually, people who are looking for that sort of experiential trip, it's actually the cruising in Latin America in general is not necessarily big ship cruising. It is the little interesting trips. If you look at actually Antarctica, you look at Galapagos, you look at the Amazon. These are areas that you can do extraordinary experiential cruise journeys. And if you have people who have been in Indonesia, in the Mekong, in cruising around coast around Japan, these kind of things, they're actually finding a lot of people are actually looking for what is next. Alaska, we get a lot of people who've done Alaska or doing Galapagos. There's a lot of options out there at a very high level, at a very high standard.
Okay, cool. And Ben, lastly, coming to you on switch selling, what destinations should agents be recommending to clients who like historic sites and kind of immersing themselves in the local culture?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said earlier in my sort of first point, you're really sort of spoiled for choice. But I think clients who have been to Angkor Wat in Cambodia, for instance, I absolutely loved it. I've been there; it's an incredible site. And two places probably spring to mind as a good alternative to. Not alternative, but similar kind of experience, I guess, would be Palenque, possibly in Mexico, which has that sort of similar sort of facet of an ancient ruin just rising out of the rainforest. Rainforest teeming with howler monkeys, spider monkeys, macaws, so full of wildlife, but really beautiful old Mayan temples with really sort of vivid hieroglyphics. So anyone that's loved Angkor Wat will certainly love Palenque. Palenque is just one of many fascinating sites in Mexico. Neighboring Guatemala as well, of course, has what's probably defined as the capital of the Mayan Empire, which is Tikal, and similar to Palenque in the sense that it's in the middle of the rainforest, but on a much grander scale, much larger scale, many more temples. And again, lots of wildlife to be seen, some incredible sort of views across the top of the rainforest stretching for miles. Those come to mind. Machu Picchu, I think, is pretty incomparable anywhere in the world. I've been fortunate to travel a lot throughout Asia and see lots of the temples. I think Machu Picchu is just somewhere you have to see, and anyone who's interested in in sort of ancient sites simply has to go there. I won't say there's an alternative to it.
Yeah. Okay, great. So some of you have mentioned some common misconceptions in your answers there, but are there any others that you'd like to flag, maybe surrounding connectivity or anything else that you think is a common problem or misconception?
I mean, I guess I can jump in a little bit with that, and I think some of the misconceptions have been, well, how do you get to Latin America, right? It's very challenging. There's limited airlines offering services down into that region. And what we've seen actually over the last 3-4 years has been a real influx of airlines, of connectivity, of frequencies. And now, yes, there's still the opportunity to go via somewhere to connect into Latin America, and there's lots of options around that. But there are also a lot more direct options as well. So actually, traveling to Latin America, is much more accessible than it has ever been. I mean, obviously, taking the current situation out of the picture, but actually, that connectivity will come back. And so it is a lot easier, a lot more choice, a lot more variety to get to and from Latin America. So that's one myth I think we can dispel right away.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. And so now I'm going to move on to selling tips, and I'll ask each one of you for top selling tip each that agents can use to sell to their clients. So Jess, what about you? What's your top selling tip for Latin America?
Okay, well, my tip for agents, especially right now, where it's a bit, some of you might be a bit quieter or not working at the moment. As Colin said, I know a lot of you haven't managed to get to Latin America yet, and hopefully you will do at some point. But in the meantime, Latin America is not an easy place to sell if you haven't been, or you're not that passionate. We get that. If you've never been, how can you sell somewhere and be really passionate about it like other destinations? However, you can be inspired, and there's so much information out there. So use the resources available, and I think we'll probably talk about what resources Latin Routes have available for you to look at. But if you're not interested in training, or you don't like reading, then there's so many videos, there's so many documentaries, there's race across the world at the moment. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but it's such a fascinating insight into the diversity of the continent. And so if you're not into doing online training, but obviously that's the best way to learn, but if you're not, just seek resources and try and get inspired and learn as much as you can, because there's so much opportunity to sell Latin America to your clients, because they need travel agents and they can't do it themselves online. So they need a travel agent to do it, or a tour operator to do it for them. And there's good opportunity to make good money. So when business resumes, you know, it's a destination that you should focus on, because the conversion rates are very high amongst holidays that we send out, and also the average selling value is higher than other destinations. So from a business point of view, if you can get your head around how to sell it, or just the basics, then you're really going to help business and yourself in the future. Great,
thank you. And Ben, what's your top selling tip?
I think it's such an amazingly diverse destination that it's a great destination for families, and I think that's really something that's worth highlighting. You know, if you have clients coming to you, you know, who don't know where to go and they're going as a family, then again, you're spoiled for choice. You could go to Costa Rica, which, you know, as Jess mentioned earlier, has got the most incredible sort of wildlife on offer and really, really easy to see. It's a small country, so not big distances. And so, you know, you're not going to be spending, you know, hours or days, you know, traveling from one place to the other. And it's incredibly safe as well. So, you know, going back to misconceptions, I think Latin America's got a bit of a reputation that actually harks back to the 80s, and it's never been safer to travel to Latin America. And families absolutely love it. We often find at Journey Latin America that you know, we will sort of organise a holiday for one family to one part of Latin America, and they'll be straight back booking their next trip. If they've been to Costa Rica, they'll very often want to go to South America on their next one. And again, the diversity that you can offer in a single holiday, you know, combining mountains, outdoor sort of active pursuits, with you know, real amazing pristine jungle in the Amazon, and the ancient sites that I talked about before, and then just finishing on the beach. It's really easy to do, and it's a winner every time for families.
Okay, great, thanks. Jess, Sarah Watson has just commented saying she's really enjoying Race Across the World. So yeah. Cool. So Maggie, I'm now going to ask you, what's your top selling tip for agents?
I would say it's a great place to promote people to travel during our winter months where there's nothing here. So most of the countries in Latin America are great in the winter months here.
What makes them so great?
Well, their climate is their summertime, whereas it's the middle of our winter.
So lots of warm weather.
Yes, warm weather. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So Malcolm, lastly coming to you, what's your top selling tip?
Yeah, I mean, you know, as Jess says, there's so much support out there, and there are, you know, I mean, including, you know, LATA, of course, there are experts available for people over here to seek out and speak to for that. But actually, you know, my top tips really would be go visit yourself, because, you know, without actually, I mean, it is a destination, you know, all of the different destinations, and don't try and do too much is another one, because you can, you know, when you're planning these trips to Latin America, you can sort of jump around far too often. But actually, it is an area, it's a destination that people fall in love with very deeply, and you come back and you'll tell everyone about it, and you'll talk about it, and everyone who comes back from Latin America is an expert in that, because they become connected with it in a very real way. And I think that's down to the incredible people who are there. And so yeah, my best advice is go and see some of it for yourself, and realize why we're all so excited about it.
Yeah. Great, thank you. And obviously there is so much more to learn about Latin America than what we've covered in this session. So I'm going to ask what resources each of you have for agents who have tuned in and are keen to find out more about the destinations. So Jess, do you want to talk a little bit about Latin Roots resources?
Yeah, sure. And I think also just coming back to your last question, Maddie, about top tips, and you know, a lot of clients, unless you put the destination in their faces, don't automatically think of it. They need that inspiration and they need to see it. So one of the things that we've been trying to do over the last couple of years in particular is really push promotional material and marketing material out to you guys, to agents, so that clients see a picture of Machu Picchu and say, oh yes, that is a destination that's on my bucket list that I've always wanted to go to, and that this travel agency does. Because I think sometimes it's quite easy to market destinations, you know, beach pictures, or just you know, one stop you know, city breaks, etc. But Latin America has so much, as we've all discussed. So there's a lot out there that you can push to kind of get the inquiry and get people to start thinking about Latin America and plant that seed, so that even if it's not this year, maybe it's next year or 2022, that then they come back to you and think about it as a destination. In terms of what Latin Routes does, we have a whole marketing hub that is just specifically for travel agents, and that's something we built very carefully over the last couple of years. And that's got everything from posters you can print to itineraries that you can send to give an idea of price, to images, to videos, and it's a really useful kind of place to get that information and send out and use on your social media. So please go to latinroutes.co.uk/agents, and you sign in with the password Chile, CHILE, and then you can access all that information. Equally, we also in there have this amazing how to sell guide, which is a very basic guide about each country's highlights, how to sell it, how to get there. And it's a really good starting point if you've got someone in the shop in front of you or on the phone and you just need a quick reference guide, so to make yourself confident and inspire the clients, basically. So yeah, just use it all, please.
Great, thank you. So Ben, I'm going to come to you next. Do you want to talk a little bit about Journey Latin America's resources for agents?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, we're just celebrating our 40th year in business, and throughout that time we've been working with travel agents and have a very successful history of doing so. And what we did probably about 7 years ago, is we created an agents team within our main sales team. So we've now got a sort of small dedicated team working primarily with travel agents, and you know, they really understand what you need in order to help you sell to your clients. And so, you know, we found that's been really successful, really, very much appreciated by both sides, because it just makes the whole sort of process so efficient. And you know, so that's something that's worth knowing about. You know, so you can just phone up the switchboard. We don't have what do you call it, sort of automated numbers, so just phone the main number and ask for the agents team and you'll go straight through. We send out a newsletter. I believe it's once a month. It might occasionally be twice, but with lots of inspirational ideas and offers that you might want to put in front of your clients. And so again, you know, just stay in touch, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll receive all of these tips. We often have little promotions and prizes as well. But ultimately, I think really it's the depth of our knowledge that's going to help you, market and sell the destination to your clients.
Cool, that's great, thank you. So Maggie, what resources is Windows on the Wild offering to agents at the moment?
We too have a small team of people who know Latin America very well, and we're happy to help anybody who wants to give us a ring and ask us.
Okay, great, thanks. And Malcolm, what about Aqua Expeditions? What resources are you offering?
Well, you know, Aqua Expeditions, we're very lucky. We work with wonderful people like Latin Routes and Journey Latin America and Windows Wild. So we've got a good presence here of people who know us in the UK. I'm in London, so you can always call me. I'm available. But we also have an agent portal on our website. aquaexpeditions.com has this agent portal you can click on, and we know that actually one of the things that creates the interest when people are booking holidays to find something specific to build a trip around. And actually that's something that Aqua does quite well, because it is something that, you know, we do a lot of PR, we do a lot of marketing in that kind of way. So people have been interested in coming on board with us, but we're going to be part of a larger trip. So, you know, you can get information from our website, from the portal that we have there to share with the guest, and then you can speak to the wonderful teams in the tour operators and trade in the UK, and they can put together the rest of the trip and book us through them. So it works nicely. Great,
thanks. And Colin, I know we spoke a bit about the training courses at the beginning of the session, but for agents that maybe missed the beginning, do you want to recap on LATA's resources for agents?
Yeah, I'd love to. So again, we are really pleased to be kind of launching the LATA Training Academy, and we see this as really a beginner's guide to Latin America. an opportunity for you to go to find out about all the key destinations top level. The exciting news is we're going to be looking at adding more content, more detail over the coming weeks and months. It's been great to listen to 4 experts who understand and who have been to Latin America, and it's inspired me. LATA, as a membership organization, has over 350 members, all experts in Latin America. So if you visit lata.travel.com, you can find out about those members and reach out to them directly. Also, this competition that we're doing.
Oh, Colin, you've knocked yourself on mute there. You might want to unmute yourself. There we go.
It's a sign, Maddie. Somebody's trying to tell me something. I'm not sure where it cut off, but
we just got to. You started talking about the competition.
Perfect. Yeah. That's perfect timing. So please visit TTG Facebook page for more information every day, and also the LATA Facebook page. It's going to be run predominantly on the Facebook platform, where you can find out more about the competition and a chance to win some goodies and some prizes. But yeah, the secret is, for me, listen to the experts. They know all about Latin America. It's a fantastic region, and we're really excited to start promoting it and to share some of our knowledge with you.
Great, thank you very much. Well, I think that's all we've got time for today. Thank you to you all for joining me as speakers, and thank you to everyone that tuned in to watch. Yeah, if you've got any questions about what we've talked about today or anything about Latin America, feel free to type them in the comment section below, and we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as possible. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks.